Hey folks, it's Justin once again, and not much of an update, didn't buy anything new. I just want to have a really in-depth discussion about the songs the Beach Boys have covered over the years, whether it be in the studio or live. Now, I'm not able to cover everything because that would be merely impossible in a video, but I know there's lists online and there's different things that are like, oh, Buzz Buzz Buzz, that song that Al Jardine sang lead on in the 80s. I have no idea what that song is. Is it a traditional song? I don't know. I've never heard it. I won't be covering a few things like that. Probably won't say much about Imagine that Mike sang lead on during the 80s after Lennon was shot. Just mostly interesting that that was covered. Just the mention of that is trivia enough, in my opinion. You can find that on YouTube as well. There's a lot of stuff you can find on YouTube that's not really released on anything, such as videos and performances that aren't on albums and whatnot. Anyway, yesterday while I was at work, I was so bored I filled out a whole thing, 2 sheets of paper of everything the guys have covered as far as notable in my head. So I'm just going to start out at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. And Surfin' Safari, we know that, Moondog is a cover, instrumental cover. Not much notable, anything, kind of just by the numbers, as a lot of these early covers are. Just kind of notable for the trivia being that Nick Vinay did the barking, howling of the dog on Moondog. Summertime Blues, definitely by the numbers, but interesting. It's got Carl and Dave singing on it. They're playing. Obviously, their guitar stuff is something of legend. And then you have Little Miss America, which is Denny's first lead vocal. Again, just by the numbers, but kind of cool that they have that. Thinking of different stuff that they have covered, you've got bonus tracks on the twofers. I was just listening to Baker's Man. I don't know if that would have been on a Surfin' Safari or Surfin' USA album. Interesting just because it's kind of a piano-based song. Nothing really that big to it. It reminds me of Holy Gully, actually, and I don't really know either one of those songs very well. And then Cindy Oh Cindy, I believe, was a bonus track on that twofer, and that is a okay cover as well. I listened to the original by a guy named Eddie. I can't remember. There's going to be a lot of stuff I don't remember about this, but it was just not something the guys would cover. But it's those early years we're trying to find that kind of stuff, so it's interesting to listen to. Something about covers that used to really bother me was, to me, I always felt like they didn't have enough faith in their own material. And like when you're performing a cover at a concert, like the concert album, it's like, come on, why didn't every other song is a cover? And they don't really add to it. But I guess that was the times. And concerts then, you did perform a lot of the popular stuff. Everybody else was, recording and whatnot. Runaway, Little Old Lady from Pasadena, Long Tall Texan. By the numbers, but interesting for that time era. So you've got those that are like, not so interesting, cool that they covered it, and then you have like, whoa, they really improved upon that. Like I Can Hear Music, Sloop John B. So moving on to the Surfin' USA album, we have that they did Misirlou, again by the numbers. Interesting to have the guitar playing by Carl, but nothing really new added to it, which is fine. It's an early start. That's going to happen in a lot of bands. And then you have Honky Tonk, which is another just by the numbers sort of jam. It's enjoyable, but if you already enjoy the song, then it's all right. As far as I know, that's Let's Go Trippin'. That's a really good cover. And again, nice that they perform it in the concert. It's cool to have an surf instrumental on the concert album, really. Surfer Girl. The only cover really for this, I think The Rocking Surfer is I believe the Good Humor Man tune. I believe Wyatt and Jason, you talked about this on your guys' podcast, Sail On, which is an awesome podcast. You should listen to it. And I believe that is the South Bay Surfer, just a using the melody to wow, I can't think of it. It's a Robert Foster song. Did I say his name right? Wow, I cannot think of that. You're going to say it in the comments because I can't remember it, or I'll say it in the comments when I remember. And the Honeys also did that. Can't think of what that one is. Wow, I can't think of that. Sorry. How embarrassing. So anyway, another song I don't have to point out on a record per se. I could pull out the Brian Wilson Productions album, but there was Summertime, which is interesting. We have 3 covers here in the Beach Boys universe. So you have Sharon Marie, just a kind of a pop version of it. Brian produced it. Then you have Bruce Johnston, before he got into the Beach Boys. He covered it, and he actually does a really good job of it. It's live, and I'm not sure how live it is, but it's on one of his albums, early albums. But he does a terrific vocal to it. And then Brian, of course, does it on the Gershwin album, which is a great standard. So it's pretty enjoyable. Moving on, Little Loose Coop album. Young Man Is Gone. Exactly. Their Hearts Were Full of Spring, except with different lyrics. And going on with Their Hearts Were Full of Spring, you got the early version that they recorded for Capitol. Interesting for that time, and amazing that Brian could do those arrangements that early on. Then you have the Late in Hawaii version, which is probably the best version. It was from a rehearsal. And then live in London, they did that with Bruce instead of Brian on the falsetto. Interesting to listen to. Moving on to Shutdown Volume 2. And just to let you know, this might end at any minute. And I'm just going to upload it and then truck on through after and go with part 2. You know how my videos go. I don't always know how much room is on my phone. So, on here we had Why Do Fools Fall in Love, which is one of the first covers that it's like, whoa, that was amazing. Great Spectorus production. The Summer Love Songs issued compilation, had that great intro, great piano intro. I wish it could have still been on there, but whatever. It's just a great production. The guys honestly almost don't even sound like themselves on it. And then you have Louie Louie. A lot of people would think it's by the numbers. Notable for being one of the few recordings of Louie Louie that you can hear all the lyrics, including the original. And I enjoyed it just because it was on the Best of the Beach Boys 8-track my dad had. I've probably said that before. And it was just fun. I don't know. Mike's bass vocals made me and my brothers laugh. So, just a fun memory. And then we're moving on to the concert album. And let me take a look at this bad boy. It's been a while since I've listened to this album. So I know it starts out with Fun, 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 which is weird because that's more of an encore song now. But Little Lady, Pasadena, by the numbers still. Long Tall Texan, I don't really know that song beyond the Beach Boys. I know they did it for Stars and Stripes, and yeah, it's kind of a novelty thing. Like, great, you brought that back, but it's not much. I believe they performed it later on when they were helping out George Bush with his campaign. Monster Bash, again, fun to hear Mike do that. Just kind of a novelty for its time. Let's Go Trippin', I already talked about. Papa Uma Mau, they do a really great version. It's about the same as the Party album. Mike does the great Papa Uma Mau vocals, and then Brian takes it off. I love it. The Wanderer, same thing, very similar. except, you got Denny on lead vocals, which is going to make the girls go wild. And so that makes it like, woo, that's great. Graduation Day, it's a great cover. My preferred version, though, is the one from Washington, D.C. in 1967. It is on the Sunshine Tomorrow live part that came out after the CD set. Bruce has great vocals on it. I don't really like the banter at the beginning, but it's a great version. This version, it's pretty good. Love hearing Brian on there. You got Denny at the end yelling, "Hey!" That's kind of funny. And then there's that live studio recording of it, and pretty good. It's a pretty stellar performance. Johnny B. Good you got, and they Brian still performs that to this day as an encore. Not all the time, but he has in the past like decade or so. He obviously really enjoys that song, and it's definitely like the roots of a lot of Beach Boy intros. So let me look at my list, make sure I've came up. Ooh, Chopsticks Boogie. I've read, from bootlegs that's been on, that's Brian and Jan Berry playing back and forth. It's kind of a cool, instrumental. Nothing as of note, but cool to find on a bootleg. And I think sometimes when you look back on bonus tracks and bootlegs, and you look at what was on the album, you think, oh, that should have been on there. And that's one of those hindsight 2020, Was it really that good, or is it good because it's a bonus track and, you find the weakest track on the album and replace it with that? I don't know. Sometimes that's how I feel about it. Let's see. Moving on to All Summer Long, which Sail On Podcasts just did today. Go listen to that. Those guys are awesome. Let's see here. They did Hushabye for that. I didn't really know that song from before, but it's really good. Great vocal arrangements. Sometimes I feel the track doesn't even need to be there. They just need to do a cappella. You almost don't hear the piano in the background. It's not really necessary, to be completely honest. Do You Want to Dance and I'm So Young on the Today album. Do You Want to Dance made it a great, like, Spectre-esque, big sound. Great lead vocal from Dennis. And love the timpani. Some people don't really like that. I think it sounds good. Great intro to an album. And then let's make sure I didn't lose anything here. Okay, I'm So Young. Still didn't know this song, but it's by the Students, and I believe Spectre covered it as well. It's a great, stellar performance. I like the bonus track, but they added flute. That's kind of cool. Another one of those 2020 hindsight things of, was that version better just because it added the flute? I don't know. Truly enjoyed it, though. Moving on, we've got Summer Days and Summer Nights. I had no idea that the Girl from New York City it's not a cover, it's just kind of a reverse, kind of like what Then I Kissed Me is, or Then I Kissed Her. It's a great honkin' sax at the beginning intro of the album, and it's kind of reversed from the Boy from New York City, and I had to go listen, and I totally forgot that I realized I knew that song, that ooh wah na 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 da 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 from New York City. I didn't realize I knew that. The song doesn't sound exactly the same as that. Not like Then I Kissed Her and Then He Kissed Me, which to me is just like, it's a good performance by Al, and it's a great production, but it doesn't add anything. But it's good for Summer Days album. A special note for the Then I Kissed Her is the usage of that as the single in the UK when the Beach Boys in 1967 or 66, whenever they were voted the top vocal group in the UK over the Beatles. And they put out Then I Kissed Her, and that was really weak. And I don't know if that was the Beach Boys' choice. It could have been EMI. And that was just like a weak choice on their part. Just interesting trivia I love to spout out. I'm going into the Party album, and I'm just going to pull this because I love it. This is the unplugged version that came out a few years ago with none of the noise in the background. I should have known better. Tell Me Why. Great, stellar performances. Carl was a big fan of those songs. And You Gotta Hide Your Love Away. Dennis, great, soulful lead vocal. It's cool that became a staple in the concerts after that for the Beach Boys, that he had that spotlight. And speaking of Beatles performances, covers, down the road we have With a Little Help from My Friends with Bruce on lead vocal. You can hear that on the Rarities album if you have it, or more recently the Sunshine Tomorrow release. And it's actually really kind of fun to hear. I love Carl's vocal on it, the harmonies, and it's quite a fun mix. Obviously, it shouldn't really been on something. If they released on an album, it would have been so like, okay, Beatles, you got it. We're not that good. Obviously, I don't believe that, but it would just be like you're surrendering, you know. And later on, of course, you have Back in USSR with, Mike covers that. Something I was always annoyed about was Adrian Baker always saying, I saw her standing there alive. It's like, why are you covering this? That was in early 2000s with Mike's band, and it just added nothing new to it. And I think it was an encore song, and it was just like, why? Now, on the other hand, 5 years later or so, Brian started performing She's Leaving Home from the Sgt. Pepper album. That was around that Lucky Old Son. And it was used as a encore track as well, later track, when he performed it live. And he added something really cool to it. The beginning had that Getting Better guitar lick. When it got into it, of course, I had the tune of She's Leaving Home, but it had a very Penny Lane vibe to it. The bouncing of it and the vibes. It was really good. Look up that performance on YouTube. It's fantastic. I love that performance. And moving on, there's the Dylan tunes that are on the Party album. The Times They Are A-Changin. Al does a great job with that. And later on, he did the wind, Blowing in the Wind, which is on the CD version of this. Does a stellar version of it. I enjoy it. Great vocals. As you can see here, as I listed, they're in black. Barb and Eye Roll. Yes, I'm going to mention it, but I would be remiss if I did. So, I think as a Beach Boys hardcore fan, like you who are watching this, it's just one of those things. It's like, there's better stuff out there, the Beach Boys, but everybody knows this song. Yes, Brian loves it. He's performed on encores for years. But there's better stuff to come. And the fact that it was number 2, and you're like, but come on. Number 2, number 1? Number 2, I believe. May have been number 1 somewhere else, in a foreign country. But it's just like, it's fun, but we've just heard it so many times. We want to hear something else, to be completely honest, in my opinion. It's a fun tune. It goes with the Party album, but it's just like, meh. I'm not a Brianista or, for Mike. I'm in between, but I've just heard it too many times. So we'll move on to the better performances. Devoted to You, great vocals. Mike and Brian do a great duet of it. Really cool that they released it as a B-side later on with Getting Hungry, maybe. And it's just a stellar performance. And speaking of the Everly Brothers, you can look up on YouTube Danny Hutton of Three Dog Night and Brian Wilson in the mid-90s recorded on a video them performing Dream for a Everly Brothers convention. that wasn't really released officially, but it's on YouTube as far as I know.